everybody. Welcome to another Comic Source Comic Boom collaboration as we continue to count down the 12 days of the Comic Source, presenting Bad Idea. Joined by Rocky, my co-host from Comic Boom. And we were sort of trying to do these in release order, sort of. You know, we did the first 5. I got those right. And then I forgot about the final 5. So there was a time in 2021 where Bad Idea said that they were going to cease publication. They're only going to publish 5 more books. And they called them the final 5. You had to prepay for them or pre-order them with your retailer. You had to pre-order them. And it was a way, again, for Bad Idea to get revenue in the hands of retailers. The hardest thing to do is to know how many books to order, what to order, that sort of thing. Pre-orders really help out your retailer. We talk about it all the time. So this was a way for retailers to guarantee that they were going to sell these books, right? And if you ordered all 5, you got a sticker. You got to send it in later for an exclusive book. I had forgotten about the final 5. I had totally spaced on it. And so we already talked about Escape from Wyoming, and that was a year later after the final 5 when Bad Idea announced that they were coming back with 7 new series, and Escape from Wyoming was the first of those. But before that, they had the final 5. I forgot about it. The first series of the final 5 was Monster Hunter Squad. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Today, we're going to talk about the second book that was released, which was a one-shot, kind of similar to Whalesville, in that it had 2 stories in one, basically. One written by Matt Kindt, one by Mark Russell. The first story by Matt Kindt is Refuse. It's got artwork by Marguerite Sauvage. And then the second one is the Mark Russell book, which has, I guess, interesting, stylized. I'm not even sure like what the right way to describe the art is, but it's Adam Pollina art, and he's the artist that did such a fantastic job in Whalesville with the design of the sea creatures and what have
He's
you.
good.
This is so different, right? I mean, it's the same artist, and once I look at it, I say, okay, it's Adam Pollina. I can see it's very stylized or what have you, but it's almost a completely different style, because it's set in the future and cloning and all that kind of thing. So it's similar in terms of line weights. The storytelling is very strong, just like it was in Whalesville, but there's not sort of the textured feel, and the colors have something to do with that as well. So the art just looks very different in Last Resorts. But we'll talk about Refuse first, which is almost a silent issue. And I really enjoy the story. It's interesting when you talk about, written by Matt Kindt, and there's, so little dialogue. So is it really Marguerite Sauvage doing the heavy lifting? Well, the fact of the matter is we don't know how detailed the script was in terms of, what the panel descriptions were. It could have been Matt Kindt saying, do this, do this, do this, or he might have just been back and forth giving her notes, or it might have just been a situation where he said, we need to get from point A to point B, draw it however you want. So pretty interesting when you look at it like that. And one of the things that we have talked about, because Marguerite Sauvage has done a lot of work for DC, and one of the things that we've talked about in the past is how at times her work has kind of looked like a children's picture book, where the storytelling, the transitions from panel to panel haven't been really, really strong. And yet when you tell a story with as little dialogue or as little narration as you have in this book, you're reliant on good transition. You're reliant on good visual storytelling. So I do find it interesting that when we look at, and we've talked about her work getting better over time, it's interesting that this is something she did in the meantime, if you will. So I wonder how much doing this, telling a story that has such little dialogue, you don't have that crutch. Everything is basically story told in visual. It sort of forces you to become a better storyteller. So what did you think of Refuse, Rocky? What were your thoughts on this nearly silent story?
I think it's. I was extremely impressed. Marguerite Sauvage's art is it's probably the best I've seen it in I don't know if I've seen better art from her, to be honest. She is definitely getting better. And But this one, it actually reminds me of like a combination between Tula Lotte's art and Jenny Frison, but with more action packed, like more not less static, and there's a lot of Margaret Sauvage. Where her art's getting better is that she's conveying more kinetic energy, more movement in a more believable manner. Because often her work just seems it can seem very
Stiff.
almost yeah, like still and lacking motion, lacking the illusion of motion. And but this is gorgeous, gorgeous art, and of course the most important thing, it's telling a story. And what's extremely impressive about Refuse is that there's just no dialogue, and it was just really enjoyable. It's really enjoyable to just sort of like scroll through the pages as slow as I like, enjoying all. I mean, it really is just a really wonderful story of a woman who finds herself on a strange planet, seemingly without a memory, and then finds her way. We think she's finding her way home, only to have the big reveal at the end. I thought it was just. I thought it was very well done, and she ends up making a home on this planet that she's on, with befriending the animals, and just very, very well done. And just you know you can take your time, and it's the great thing about comic books is that, unlike a movie, you can spend as much time as you want in any setting, on any page, and just look at it, and you decide how long you enjoy those moments that the artist pulls you into. And that's what I really like about this. And we know in many ways so little about this lead character, and it's only one woman character. She's beautiful, she's gorgeous, she's by herself. We don't even know her name. I don't think we ever get her name. But
No.
it's unimportant. It's unimportant. It's because you're experiencing that contributes to the unknown aspect of the story, that contributes to the mystery of it. But you're getting to know her through her actions and through the actions of the animals she interacts with and the environment she's in. And slowly, as she locates this spaceship in the lake and pulls it out, and the mystery deepens as she finds a communication from a mysterious source, seemingly from another planet, and that pulls her inevitably toward that other planet until the end, when we get the big reveal. And I thought it was very well done, just a gorgeous one shot. And and there's nothing more rewarding than when you get a fantastic comic like this. And I gotta admit, I like the fact that the picture, the writer, Matt Kindt, just lets Margaret Sauvage, visually tell us the story. It works very well. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing, and it very much shows the power of the medium, the strength, storytelling possibilities of sequential art. So, we don't always go spoiler free on those, but I think we are going to go spoiler free with this Refused story. Um, I'll just say that it's a woman has suffered trauma, but as Rocky said, she's lost her memory, so she doesn't even realize the trauma that she's suffered, and instead, I think. Um, Considers herself to be stranded on this planet, has to find a way to survive, and that's her trauma. And she does find strength within herself. She does have the ability to survive and adapt and grow, um, and sort of heal from that trauma. And then, as Rocky said, finding the spaceship and being pulled back to the planet. And then we get the reveal at the end, and we find out that she sort of healed from a different trauma in a way that she wasn't even aware of. So it's a very powerful story. And the reason I don't want to spoil it here is because it is so emotional, it is so impactful. But if we give it away here, it's going to lose a lot of that impact. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, we highly recommend it. Go check it out, and you'll understand what we're saying about the impact of the story and how it would lose that impact if we gave it away here. So we won't do that. But the second story, we will be a little more spoilery because it's Mark Russell, and I love Mark Russell. He's been on the show before, Eisner nominated, Eisner winning writer. And if you took all the words that maybe could have been in the first story and you added them to the second story, that's what you'd get. Like
Yeah.
there is so much dialogue here. Kind of narrated in the first person by this self-described dead end. So it's in the future. I think it's like the year like 2131 or 2031, something like that. And this guy's lost his job. He's got no wife, no kids, no reason even to really exist. He describes the future, and it's sort of cynical, not so different from maybe the world of what's the movie Minority Report, where you're walking around and you're constantly being assailed and assaulted by ads that are personally sort of tailored to try to get you to buy or whatever. And so yeah, this guy's like, okay, he sees an ad for a free vacation, right? Like they have the ability to have long form space travel, but the guy that's selling this travel is like, why would you want to do that? It takes forever to get there. You got to go into suspended animation, blah, blah, blah. He's like, instead, we'll beam you there. You will beam your quantum signature there. You get a brand new body. You go around, you do whatever you want, then you get beamed back. Come and hear our pitch. And if you're not sold, we'll give you a trip somewhere for free. And so this guy, he hears this and he's like, oh, I can easily resist the sales pitch. No matter what, I'll say I don't like it. I'll get a free trip, right? Again, this guy's very self-involved, very selfish. His name is Sai. And so he takes him up on the offer. He goes in, he sits through the pitch. He says he's not interested. He gets the free vacation. He goes to the moon, finds it to be kind of boring. I mean, this guy sort of finds life boring. I don't think it's that he's unintelligent or he's lazy. He doesn't do anything because he finds life sort of boring. And so as the story goes on, he's disappointed going to the moon. So he convinces his roommate, you get to take a guest when you refuse to buy and get the free trip. And the saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. This guy never stops to think about that, because in a way he's sort of entitled. And so he went to the moon. He didn't care for it. He comes back. He invites his roommate, who doesn't particularly like him because he's a deadbeat, and says, hey, now you go listen to the sales pitch. And because he did invite her to go to the moon with him, and she chickened out at the last minute, kind of that whole Dr. McCoy thing with the transporters. She didn't want the whole quantum signature. She didn't like that. So he's like, okay, you owe me because you bailed on the last minute. You go. You refuse to buy a trip. You'll get a free trip. You can take me as a guest. We'll go somewhere more exciting than the moon. They go to Titan, which is one of the moons of Saturn. But when he goes back, what he discovers is the guy doing the sales pitch looks just like him. And he's like, what do I have, a long lost identical twin I didn't know about? Well, come to find out, this company that is giving the free trips, it doesn't have anything to do with the free trips. They're taking the digital signature, the digital quantum signatures of people. They're creating clones with no memories, and they're using them on the black market, either to harvest for organs to sell, or as kind of cheap labor to do the jobs that nobody wants to do, like sell trips or serve food on the resort in Titan. And so then he takes it upon himself. Oh, I'm gonna blow up this corporation. I'm gonna free all my clones. It gets ludicrous in a hurry. But again, the Adam Pollina art, which is so stylized and goofy, really brings this character of Sai to life, and his roommate Robin. Sai's very, very thin, very tall. Robin's very short and squat and obese. But it gives having these different body styles gives Adam Pollina a chance to kind of really play around with facial expressions and body language and that sort of thing. So in the end, Sai does manage to blow up. And I'm skipping over a lot of the details here and the humor. But again, read it for yourself, and you'll be able to experience that. He blows it up, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because then the guy that turned out to be that was posing as this Nobel Prize winning physicist that figured out this quantum signature thing, the guy that actually he killed the original, and he decided to set up this business. So he gets blown up along with everybody else at Last Resort, but he has another clone that of the Nobel Prize winning physicist, and he sets up a new business. And now he's saying, if you've ever gone on a trip and had your digital signature, quantum signature, we still have it. You can be resurrected. You can have another shot at life, because they don't have to resurrect you without your memories. They can resurrect you with your memories. So now he's on a new gig, right? This resurrection thing. So there's a very cynical ending to it, with Sai again narrating the whole thing, going, "Yeah, I didn't make a difference at all. Life is boring. It doesn't really have purpose. We're just sort of, in this endless cycle of sort of consuming ourselves." So, if you've ever read any Mark Russell stories, his a lot of his stuff is very satirical. So this is very much like sort of a cynical look at what life is, how it can be boring, and in the end, we're all just sort of mice on a little wheel, spinning around in a circle, going crazy, run as fast as you can, only to end up right back where you started. So, in a way, of even though it's humorous, and the Adam Pollina art certainly serves that, and there's funny jokes and funny one-liners and what have you. But in the end, when I very first read it, I reread it to talk about it today. But I remember finishing it the very first time when it came out and thinking, well, that was pretty dark. you know, there's a little bit of nihilism to that. But again, I mean, that's kind of what you come to expect from a Mark Russell book. It's something. I mean, this story is something I've gone back and thought about from time to time, and I hope at some point something happens in our world, in our society, and in our culture that sort of takes us off the path that we're on, because it's all too easy to see this as the actual future we end up in if we stay on the same path of capitalism and consumerism and the haves and the have-nots. Because this certainly isn't a society where they ever found deeper meaning in relationships or art or music or anything like that. I mean, this is all just like I said, consumerism, and very much the me first society and me first culture. So anyway, what did you think, Rocky? Did you find it to be darkly
Well,
humorous like I did?
well, it's a dark dystopian future. It could be, if it was made into a Netflix episode, it would be an episode of Black Mirror. I think because looking at the darker side of technology, and it reminds me of a more darker take of an episode of Star Trek where Commander Riker, at one time, there was a transporter accident, and it duplicated Commander Riker, and but they didn't know they duplicated Commander Riker, and so the a version of Commander Riker was lost and discovered years later, abandoned on this planet, and he didn't realize that he was basically a duplicate of the original Riker. And in any event, that's sort of what this reminded me of. But has much more of an original, this feels new and fresh. And Mark Russell, he always has a message, and there's something deeply, deeply depressing about. We always ask ourselves philosophically in a lot of these stories, what's the meaning of life? Well, Mark Russell has a depressing answer for us, and he says that as this story progresses, we are both the consumer and the product. And
Yeah.
and the horrifying thing is, you combine that with immortality. Well, whatever the meaning of life is, it better be a good meaning, because if we're immortal, well, fortunately, we're not immortal. We get to die if our life sucks, right? Well, guess what? You can't die now. You're forever consuming. You're forever a product, because your quantum DNA, or whatever the hell it is, your quantum signature is going to be duplicated, and you're going to exist forever, or a version of you will exist forever. And if you don't like it, no big deal. They'll just erase your memory and you get to live more. And there's something ploddingly meaningless about that. And, are we all just brains and vats that are just, being constantly manipulated? And, but yet, what Mark Russell manages to do here, and he does it so well, but he does it much better here than he does in another series of his I'm reading called Traveling to Mars by, I think it's IDW. It's on issue 9 right now. And that one isn't quite as good as this. I thought this is actually this is better. Last Resort's. I just like how this is humorous, and there's something about the style of the art by Adam Molina.
Polina.
Pollina, yeah. The art really, the art just fits the narrative so well. And in particular, I like the distinctiveness of the characters. You couldn't get more distinctively looking characters from Sai and Tina. This big black woman and this skinny white guy. And their roommates on top of it. I mean, you couldn't get two different people with two different lives, with two different viewpoints on life, and yet they come together, both ultimately suffering the same fate as all of humanity does here. This actually makes me think, and it's another sort of way of looking at AI. You know, if we're ever going to develop a technology this advanced where we have quantum signatures or transporters, it's probably going to be an AI intelligence that creates it. And again, it's just in the last 5 years with all this technological development where we've been bombarded with stories like this, I think have extra resonance for the reader. So this is, it's getting harder and harder on these 12 days of the comic source regarding Bad Idea. This last resort's I really like. I kind of like this in combination with the gorgeous refuse. This might be. I think this might be my favorite, my new favorite. I really like it because it's
Your
such an
favorite's
eclectic.
whichever one we read last.
Well, I
That's
know,
great.
but I mean, maybe they just keep getting better. But what an odd eclectic combination of the. I mean, you couldn't get two different kinds of stories, really. Uh, but just very different and yet both very, very satisfying. One very satisfying in a good way, and the other one is kind of disturbing in how it, makes me think about and reflect on the how depressing immortality could be if humanity goes a certain direction. But no, it was interesting read, interesting comic.
Yeah, and again, like this. So this came out in 2021, and to go back what I was saying, the path we're on, right? We're 2 years later, and if anything, that line that you mentioned, where Mark Russell says we're both the consumer and the product, it's only more. We've only gone further down that path, with everybody wanting their 15 minutes of fame on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or whatever. And that's when I heard that line, that's what it reminded me of, right? Like everybody's trying to make themselves into a commodity, give their name value and, get the clicks and get the attention and whatever.
Yeah.
And I know it's not everybody. I say everybody. I know it's not everybody. Not everybody wants to be a celebrity. Not everyone wants to be famous. But I think a greater percentage of the younger generation, definitely. Like when you and I were in, second and third grade, the internet wasn't even a thing. So why would we ever have said, "Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up?" I want to be a YouTuber or an influencer, whatever the heck that means.
Exactly.
But there's a big subsection now of kids when they get asked that question, just like all kids have been asked ever since school started, way back when, hundreds of years ago. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a TikToker. I want to be an influencer. Like, that's not. I'm sorry. I know that there are people that make a living at it, but that's not a real job. You know what I mean? Not to sound old and crotchety and get off my lawn, but what are you contributing to society when you do that? I guess you're contributing some entertainment 30 seconds at a time, but I don't know. I feel like there's more valuable contributions to be made, but that's sort of, I think, what part of what Mark Russell's getting at here, especially with that line. Yeah, we're both the consumer and the product. So anyway, another fantastic Bad Idea title. Go check it out. Again, we didn't spoil the first story because we want you to read it for yourself and have that emotional reaction. So go check it out. Tomorrow, as I said, we'll be talking about Monster Killer Squad. I think it's called Monster Hunter Squad. Fantastic Thomas Giorello art written by Christos Gage. So that's coming tomorrow. So be sure and join us for that. Don't forget to go subscribe to Rocky's YouTube channel. If you're checking us out on YouTube, this is on the Comic Source YouTube channel. Rocky's channel is Comic Space Boom ! It's where we put out our DC Spotlight every week, which we just put out yesterday with 13 different books. So go check that out. Leave some comments below what you thought about either this for this one or any of the DC books over on the DC Spotlight. Don't forget to ring the notification bell, subscribe to both channels so you don't miss any content, when new episodes are released. If you like to do the audio only versions of the Comic Source podcast, just go to wherever you get your podcasts, whatever platform you use, do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe. We're on all of the platforms. So we appreciate the support as always. Hope you're all having a joyous holiday season, getting to spend time with friends and family. And Rocky's going to remind you about the other DC thing that you need to be sure to do this month. So thanks for joining us, Rocky.
Yeah. Go see Aquaman.
That's right.
The Lost City, right? Yeah. Go see Aquaman and happy holidays.
So that's going to do it, everybody. Appreciate you joining us as always. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.